Friends, today we're talking about the portion of Miketz, and our 10th gift that God gave the universe or humanity through the Jewish people is the gift of economic ethics. Economic ethics, and that is quite of a strange of a gift, but we'll soon explain what do I mean by saying economic ethics. We know that there are two researchers. One just got elected in Virginia. His name is David Bratt, wrote a book in 2005. And another individual by the name of, her name is Deirdre Michalowski, and she's a wonderful professor and doctor of economics, one of the leading ones in the world today. And both of them claim, and she's much older than him, but both of them claim that economics doesn't have to do so much with mathematical patterns and equations, but you have to look a little bit deeper and to see the ethics and the values and everything that goes with it. And you have to look at it in empiric terms and test and trial and error regarding every situation and every generation. And here, how is that connected to our week's portion? We go back to Egypt, and as we know, Joseph has to confront a very serious situation. After solving Pharaoh's dream, he has to be the minister of finance in Pharaoh's palace, and he has to deal with 7 years of plenty and 7 years of hunger. And he devises a plan, an economic revolution, an economic reform, which basically turns all the lands back to Pharaoh, takes the land away from individual ownership, and then divides it, stores food, and then distributes it in the land of Egypt. Everybody from the whole world is coming to get food from Egypt. Egypt is a booming economy, and is becoming an empire. Everybody else is coming to get food from Egypt. What is our point by saying all that? The point is that there are people that are disputing whether Joseph had a capitalistic reform or a socialist reform. And people like Professor Yoram Meishar in the Hebrew University is claiming he was trying to create a capitalistic reform in order to embetter the situation of his patron, his Pharaoh. And obviously that revolution failed because he turned all the people into slaves. So that's a criticism against capitalism. But other people like the author Thomas Mann and the famous Bible commentator by the name of Nechama Leibovitz claim something else totally. They claim that actually it was a socialist type of a revolution, and we know that because we see that Pharaoh in the land of Egypt is subsiding and gives subsidies and gives food and gives land to people to dwell in the land. And the situation of the people is embittered. There's no more individual ownership. So therefore, it's a huge socialist type of a reform. Obviously, both of them, in my view, are wrong, because we're not talking about whether Joseph was a capitalist or socialist. That's a very far-fetched idea. We're talking about something else different entirely. If we take the opinions of the two professors, of David Bratt and of Deirdre, we understand that economics does not have to do so much with mathematical patterns as it has to do with the situation, the time, and most of all, and here is our greatest insight about it, it has to do with ethics. It has to do with how people treat people. And here Joseph chooses a path, but it doesn't matter if it's capitalist or socialist. He chooses a path of ethics. And how do we see that? Because in the verses in this week's portion, he gives us a great gift. And the gift is you have to be ethical in economics. And he does 4 things. Number 1, Joseph, as we see specifically in the verse, he rejects slavery. When the people come and tell him, listen, we want to be your slaves. What does he say to them? No, I don't want you to be our slaves. Just like the commentator, the Meshech Chochmah, says specifically, he rejected their idea of becoming slaves to Pharaoh. No, you'll stay in your homes. You will be worker for a day, for this day and every single day, but you will not be a servants for life. And that's why he rejects the concept of slavery in an ethical manner. Number two, Joseph, as we see, is a big fighter against corruption. And when his family and his father come to Egypt, you know what he does? He doesn't give them more money or more land. What he does is he puts them aside and he gives them exactly the amount of food which the Egyptians get. There is no discrepancies. There is no favorites in the eyes of Joseph. That's a fight against corruption. And that's the second ethical concept that Joseph put forward. And the third one is obviously the responsibility. There is no food stamps. There's no such thing as people sitting in the house and not working for their living. The opposite. The verse says specifically, I will give you seed, so you should plant the fields of Egypt, and you should toil and get the abundance of the land, and then we'll store it. I will give you fishing rods to fish. You will not stay at home and twiddle your thumbs and then get food from Egypt. No, you will take personal responsibility. And number four, there is some kind of responsibility that he takes towards the citizens of the country. And we know that every country, the biggest burden, one of the biggest burdens, is immigration. And here, Joseph, in the Bible, creates the first passport. He regulates immigration. People from other countries are not going to come and, take food from our countries and sell it, buy it low, sell it high in other places, enter the land when they don't have work and dwell, and then suck all the abundance that Egypt has. No. He created the first passport, immigration rules. He monitored everyone that went in and went out. And that's ethical behavior towards the citizens of your country. So there were four reforms, ethical reforms, besides the big economic reforms, because economic goes with ethics. And that's the big gift that Joseph gave us in this portion. What happened later on? Very simple. The revolution, the reform succeeded. Egypt is an empire. Everybody wants to be in Egypt. And they're very successful. And no one is enslaved. Everything is just. And the Egyptians say it specifically, Hechyetanu, you have made us live. You saved us. What went wrong? Very simple. Joseph dies. And with him, the whole reform of ethical economics dies with him. And that's why the beginning of the book of Exodus starts with Joseph died and a new leader came to Egypt. And what happens? The reform that Joseph created, that embedded in it were ethical concepts, died with Joseph. And what happened was all the people turned into slaves. It wasn't about the system. It's not about capitalism, socialism. It's about if you insert ethics into your economic model. And when Joseph died, ethics dies, and the people are turned into slaves. So our gift for today is try to embed ethical concepts and manners in your economic plan.